Hey guys, I'm Jeremy and I'm coming to you from Denver, Colorado, and I'm going to talk about a really tragic case that happened a few days ago in Rino district, just near where I live. This kid, Steven Marquez, a 14-year-old kid, ended up shooting a bouncer at a bar at about 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday evening last week. And so the bouncer, Todd Kidd, ended up tragically losing his life. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened and some of my thoughts about this. And of course, I want people to be on the lookout for this kid because he's still out there. And if he's killed one person, obviously this could happen again. There's not much in the actual news, so I kind of checked through Reddit. So it's not 100% verified, obviously, but there's several comments for people either who work at bars in this area and even some teachers, and have left some comments. And so apparently there's some kids on scooters that have been going around and kind of terrorizing the neighborhood in Rino on Larimer Street. They're basically going up and down, harassing people, throwing dirt and rocks, and in some cases even throwing, I think they threw a firework on someone's table who was sitting there with their newborn baby. There were other kids that tried robbing someone on Welton Street, and I guess on California Street someone threw a rock through a windshield a few days ago as well. So there's definitely been a lot of mischief going on in that neighborhood. And then the most insane thing is that they're apparently flashing a gun as well. And to me, some of this stuff might be small or petty, but someone brandishing a gun and threatening to shoot someone is no joke. And so I don't know how these kids were even able to get away with doing this stuff for what had been at least several weeks or several months. I have no idea. But anyway, around last week, they had been harassing people up and down Larimer Street. And in particular, Federales, which is a bar at the corner there, really popular spot. And they were harassing customers and taking things off tables and just being, general assholes. And naturally, the bouncers have to get you out. And so a couple of the bouncers were either manhandling them or trying to get them out. And the kid shot Todd Kidd in the stomach. And so that evening, he obviously went to the hospital, tried to get surgery and everything. And unfortunately, they lost him. Just such a huge loss for nothing. It's just the kid's being obnoxious. He's got to do his job and obviously kick people out that are harassing customers. And I've seen one thing that mentioned they had called the police, but the police didn't show up. But this is obviously another big problem in America since, the whole George Floyd incident, and defund the police, and the morale of the police officers is obviously really low too. So obviously there's been a huge decline in the amount of police patrolling neighborhoods and trying to prevent things like this. Some elementary and middle school teachers chimed in on the Reddit thread and mentioned how they had seen some kids harassing people on Larimer Street, and they had recognized one of the kids might have been one of their students at one time. And of course they probably came from broken homes, which we all assume, right? This kid's been on the run since Wednesday night. It's Monday morning. If he obviously came from a regular home, they would have found him either there or at a relative's or something like that. So possibly an orphan, or maybe a single mom. I don't really know the deal. And then over in my neighborhood in 5 Points, we also had some riffraff going on either that night or the next night, because my neighbor had called me real early in the morning, and I was thinking that's odd. Why would they call so early? And it's usually to mention if there was something going on, which of course one of the biggest crimes in Denver is that it's had one of the highest auto thefts in the nation. So I think from 2012 to 2022, there's 45,000 cars that were stolen. And luckily in the last 2 years, it's gone down, but it's still a big issue. And of course, most of us who work, before I even leave for the day, I've got to even check to see if I have a car. And sure enough, I hadn't talked to them on the phone yet. I saw my car was there and everything looked fine. I looked over to the right, they've got a broken window, right? And I think that's the third time they've had someone try to break into their car or steal their car, basically. And so, yeah, really obnoxious. Why don't they have people on patrol in the evenings, busting these people and preventing this kind of thing? I know they do have a new mayor this year. I don't know how much she's going to do compared to the old one, but it is good to hear that some of these things are going down, but it's definitely still a big concern. And then that evening, because I take people on bike tours and walking tours all the time, so I'm always in that neighborhood, I go by Federales, the bar where Todd Kidd was shot, and it was closed. And at the time I'm thinking like, geez, it's like a Thursday or a Friday night. Why would a bar be closed then? And then of course I saw this story a couple days later, and it made sense because it's open, I think, every day of the week, and especially on a Friday. So I knew there was something wrong. And it's not big in news, which it should be, of course. Luckily, one of the stations had a couple articles, but I had to find out most of the information from Reddit and other things on Facebook. But there's no doubt it's super scary for a lot of us because we're over there, you know, doing tours and different things, or you might be working as staff. And, you know, you come into this situation where people could be harassing your customers. What are you supposed to do? I mean, if you call the police, like, they're probably not going to come or do anything. Or if they do, it could be an hour later. Or you could try to intervene because they're just kids, and you'd never think that a 14-year-old would pull a gun and shoot you, but of course that's a possibility too. So it's a really concerning thing that this could have totally been prevented if these kids were busted a long time ago. And so it's easy for a lot of people to think that crime comes from poverty, but it's often the other way around. And there were big cultural shifts in the 60s where they said basically like, it's okay if women want to have kids out of wedlock, and then they started paying them. In some communities that were quite low, and those statistics now are really high, 50 to 75%. And it's very common in a lot of the countries they come through. And if you could imagine, like, if you're receiving much more taxes than you'd ever put in, that there's going to be a huge deficit there, and your schools aren't going to be as good, your neighborhood's not going to be as good. And I lived in Taiwan and China the last 15 years, and you never see people doing that. Like, you don't see baby mamas and any of this stuff. And they've got like the safest societies like China, Japan, South Korea. And then I go to somewhere like Peru over Christmas, and my first night out, I'm robbed by 3 guys with guns. And there's 1.5 million Venezuelan refugees in Peru alone. And so I'm not sure where this guy's from or what's going on, but you could see these problems are often from out of wedlock births, which are a huge problem. And these kids are growing up without the most important thing they need in life, which is a father. And all of this encouragement of feminism and different things has come at a cost. I think when a kid's really young, the mother's probably even more important because they need to get nurtured, and it's super important for them to get these feminine aspects. But the problem is, once a boy is becoming a teenager, he's going to need a father. And if he doesn't have a father role model, they're going to find like older gang leaders, basically. And I'm sure that's how this guy got a gun, right? So anyway, my heart goes out to Todd Kidd and his family and friends. I'll leave a link below for his GoFundMe page. Unbelievable. You know, you lost a good friend and a good worker in the community, and now we're going to have to spend what, $1 million over a lifetime to keep that kid in jail and pay for the prosecution and all this stuff. It's just such a waste, so unbelievable. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll do some more crime topics in Denver and true crime in general. I just did a bunch of videos on everything from Chris Watts to Columbine to JonBenet Ramsey and Ted Bundy and all that stuff. So be safe out there. If you see this kid, Steven Marquez, you know, call the police. I wouldn't apprehend or try to talk to him or anything. He's probably got a gun on him, and he's probably willing to use it again, especially now that he's probably pretty desperate. So I hope they get him soon, and if they do, I'll make sure to post that in the comments with any articles, and I'll also post that Reddit article that had a lot of information on this. So take care and be safe out there, guys. I'll see you later.